Evening to yourself and to the co-panelist. I think let me start by making reference to what the failure is. The failure is in the side of government in the context that you only had 832 immigration officers. Those were the law enforcement officers that are having the capacity and mandate to ascertain whether a person is in the country legally, whether their condition of stay, whether the permit they have, or the status in which they are in the country allows them to work, etc. And also to employers, whether those employers are in violation of their respective crimes. So what we've seen across the years is a failure of government to enforce that particular law, the immigration law, in relation to how foreign nationals can get employed, and can work, can basically run businesses in our country. Now, the failures of the government has led to citizens being informed what the law says to try and have, I want to call it illegal immigration activism. Whilst you are going to have activism for various issues, whether it's gender-based violence, it's issues concerning water or service delivery, you now have a phenomenon of illegal immigration activism, whereby, amongst others, people protest, they petition parliament, they put pressure to the executive, which has now translated into the government actually doing something. Now, I think that is where now the government is acting on the premise of being put under pressure. The government is acting, wanting to solve a problem that they've not been able to deal with or look at for over 20 years, because the issues pertaining to immigration, illegal immigration, are not new. You'll recall in 2008, when there was the instability in our country as a result of these issues. It is something that happened over 20 years ago, close to 20 years ago. However, even back then, the government did not do anything tangible to solve the problem. Even now, the government is acting because there's pressure. So what then is the responsibility on citizens. And what I mean by citizens, I also include companies, that companies need to learn to abide by the laws of the country. Companies need to respect the labor laws, because we know what companies normally do. They prefer to employ migrants, not because they have a better work ethic or more skilled than South Africans, primarily because they can be better exploited. Hence, you find that when you were watching, when the Malawian citizens were going back to their country, when the TV or media was interviewing those migrants, they were saying that they could not have, they did not have their salaries, they did not have access to all sorts of benefits and privileges that are afforded to the workers in the normal sense of things. So, which goes to show that the crisis that we have, on one side, it is a government that fails to manage the issues of migration. On the other side, it is companies who then prefer to employ migrants for exploitation purposes. And in turn, the South African citizens are sidelined. And that is the sole reason why there is this social tension. So, to solve the social tensions that we have, it is not going to be solved by labeling. You can label South Africans either say they're xenophobic, Afrophobic, all people want, but it's not going to solve the problem. What's going to solve the problem, it is actually government having a clear, tangible plan to solve the problem, companies as well, learning to abide by the laws of the country, respecting the laws of the country, paying South Africans and paying them what they are worth. That is the way in which the crisis can be averted.
Well, thank you for that, Vuyo. And let's bring Andile into the discussion. Andile, you've heard what Ashraf had to say, you've heard what Vuyo had to say as well. And what Vuyo is talking about, a 20-year problem. And Ashraf is saying there is legislation in place now for someone like yourself, casual workers advice office representative. Just, what are your observations? What are you seeing? And I'm sure you have interacted with many migrants who are in South Africa, whether they are documented or undocumented?
Yes, good evening, and good evening to the panelists. Yes, what you see, for me, what I think is important in the way that what we are experiencing on the ground and the kinds of calls that are being made, this is probably something that has been brewing in relation to the unemployment within the country, which of course, and in terms of the bubble bursting, probably if you can use that term, and this bubble burst on a call which I think is very regressive in our lives and I think in our democracy in South Africa. Because in terms of what we had been confronted with, and if we take from our experience, when we have identified the different nationalities that have been attacked, it has been mainly Malawians, and mainly some of them have been on the farms. So I think it's not just an issue of, it seems like what has been happening, which no one wants to mention, is probably there's been a lot of sort of human trafficking. And that's what our experience tells us, because if you take one farm that dismisses about 90 people, and recently, if you take in Witbank, criminality has also crept into the process where the same different nationalities are made to even get onto the bus, because when they are dismissed by these employers who do not give them anything, neither comply with the laws, there are then other extortions that comes into the picture.